my favorite film is Don't Look Back, which is a documentary about Bob Dylan made by D.A. Pennebaker, I think in 1967. Is basically Dylan's first tour of the UK, just as he's really becoming a superstar. And it's a verite style film. It's very observational, very run and gun. And you really feel the energy and a sort of the transformation of this truth teller confronting what it means to be famous, sought after, and kind of put through the machinery of the press and public adoration and all of that. So D.A. Pennebaker then went on later to make The War Room, which was sort of one of the first, famous political documentaries. And I've been very interested, as I mentioned, in the intersection of the personal and the political. So I really loved his career. And it was an extraordinary experience I had in 2018 as we had a rough cut of our film Running with Beto, which was in its own way, I really felt like I was trying to borrow from Don't Look Back in terms of the visual style of the storytelling, as well as from The War Room in terms of how do you try to tell a political story, but in human terms through compelling characters. And we had a rough cut screening for a small group of people, about 10 people, which I do. I try to screen. We did that also with our podcast, Pack One Bag, where we had small groups of people listening to cuts because I find it incredibly valuable to get feedback of along the way of what people are, what's working, what's not. It's very helpful in the editing process. And a friend of mine said, I'd like to bring someone to the screening, with me tonight. This friend is Matthew Heineman, who's a great filmmaker himself. And I said, oh, I trust you, whoever, you want to bring. And in came, I believe he was 94 or 95, D.A. Pennebaker. And it was kind of my hero. And he sat and watched the film and really enjoyed it, but also had some really helpful notes. So that was a really special full circle moment. And then I would just say, I definitely took in watching my dad as an architect who had a small practice, had a partner, worked for himself for a while, of just seeing just the entrepreneurial aspect of art making and what is it like to create these projects. Each film, each podcast, each project is essentially a startup in and of itself. And you really need those skills of, how do you create a budget? How are you funding this? What's the project management? What's the process that we're putting this through? How are we meeting deadlines? How are you managing teams? How do you bring a rigorous process to a subjective creative endeavor? And I really got a lot from my dad, from that. And then to throw in one more, I've been lucky in Austin to get to know Richard Linklater, who's been there forever. He really kindly came to a rough cut screening of my first film, Crawford, and he came to a screening of Running with Beto, and we've stayed in touch. We both love baseball a lot. And what I love about Linklater is that he has told so many different kinds of stories and made so many different genres of film. He really loves the medium, but he's not set in a particular style, a particular voice. He's just come out with this film, Hitman, that is incredibly, successful. That couldn't be more different from, Before Sunset and Before Sunrise and that trilogy, or, Dazed and Confused, what have you. So I love the way that he tries to. He's just looking for a great story, and then he's thinking about what is the style, what is the voice, what is the team that's going to best realize, this project. And he's an incredibly collaborative person. He started the Austin Film Society. He's mentored many, many young filmmakers, and I love the way that has a very sort of flat hierarchy to how he kind of operates in the world, and that's something that I am very inspired by.
I love Baz Luhrmann and the Coen brothers and Taika Waititi. I think unlike documentary, I'm sort of into heightened reality, more satire, the child's mind, juxtaposing sort of old images with modern sounds. Sometimes maybe drawing attention to the medium in which we are observing. I love color. and humor, mostly like dark humor.